So with Battlefield 6 finally being announced, we have a lot of news to discuss. What's up, everybody? Wes here. Welcome back to VGL. And today we are going to delve deep into Battlefield 6. We're going to talk about the latest news, the brand new interview with Zampella that confirmed a lot of new details like the modern setting returning, and we also got a first concept art as well as the location of that concept art. The days of 128 players have ended. We're going back to 64 players. And there's going to be a battle royale mode. We have a lot to cover, so check the video chapters for easy viewing, and let's get into it. Now, for those of you that might not know, my name is wesnemo. I've got another channel that I used to cover Battlefield 2042 content, as well as like BF3 and BF4. And well, you know, after that big 6-month content drought from 2042 post-launch, I abandoned the franchise pretty much entirely. I still play it now and then, but I stopped making content on it. But that is why I have this channel right here that I also own called VGL. So needless to say, I've been burned a couple times with Battlefield, but I am interested in this title. As soon as I saw the concept art and I saw the return to modern setting, I'm like, okay, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the actual details itself. Now, this is from an exclusive IGN article, and they said this, and I quote, Zampella confirms next Battlefield will use modern setting, first concept art revealed. So we got a big old interview with Zampella on IGN that we're going to go over all of those details. The article states, ahead of its Investors Day on September 17th, EA revealed the fresh details on its untitled Battlefield game, along with its first official concept art, which IGN exclusively revealed for the first time, and it confirms that it will be a return to the modern setting. They continued by saying, while EA is cagey about specifics when it comes to the concept art, we do know that it is of Gibraltar, and it is in a modern setting. It includes details that should stand out to longtime fans, that suggests ship-to-ship combat, and then helicopter combat will be a part of the new game. And it will also feature natural disasters like wildfires. Maybe there's not going to be tornadoes, but you know, wildfires look pretty cool too. Now, this is where the head of Respawn and the group GM for EA Studios organization, Zampella, the legend, who still won't give us Titanfall 3, said this, and I quote, I mean, if you look back to the peak or the pinnacle of Battlefield, it's that Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 era where everything was modern. And I think we have to go back to that core of what Battlefield is and do that amazingly well, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I think for me, it's that peak Battlefieldness that is Battlefield 3 and 4. So I think it's nostalgic for the players, for me, and even for the teams. Those are kind of the heyday, although I would say 1942 also, which I think we can all agree Battlefield 1942 was indeed pretty peak. They continued on by saying the return to modern setting represents a course correction for the series after Battlefield 2042, which eventually found its footing, and I will say the game has gotten a lot better. But I mean, nobody was really meshing with the specialists and the fact that it took so long for them to kind of course correct and bring back the OG classes, even though like it was meant to be a battle royale, there was a hero shooter. But then they decided to just revert that and try to go back to the classic experience, which we all know was a disaster for them. Everything was bad about 2042 at launch. Like, it's pretty solid nowadays, but again, it's like Groundhog Day for the Battlefield series and even Battlefront. Games launch terribly, get better at the end, and then right whenever it's near its peak, they decide to just end the support. Rather than continuing on with the peak, they just decide to abandon it and then just go on to the next thing. It's happened with Battlefield 1, it happened with BF5, heck, it's even happened with BF3 and BF4. Mainly BF4, like if you guys remember that launch, like that was a disaster, but they actually had content and a roadmap, unlike 2042, where I literally covered that game on YouTube for 6 months. And they didn't really add any new content. Like, it was just a complete disaster. It was a massive failure. And that's why Zampella is running the show. So hopefully it bodes well for the future. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Again, Vince, we still don't have Titanfall 3, but continuing on with the article, Vince continued on by saying, yeah, the 128 player, did it make it more fun? Like, doing the number for the sake of the number doesn't make any sense. We are testing everything around what's the most fun. So like you said, the maps, once they get to a certain scale, become different. It's a different play space, and I think you have to design around that. So we're designing something that is more akin to previous Battlefield games. I'd rather have a nice, dense, really nice, well-designed play spaces. Some of them are really good, and I can't wait for you guys to see them. Now, Vince continued by saying, so I wasn't there for 2042. I don't know what the rationale was, but for me, it's like the team tried something new and you have to applaud that effort. Not everybody liked it, but you got to try new things, and it didn't work. It didn't fit. Specialists will not be coming back, so classes are kind of at the core of Battlefield, and we're going back to that. Now, Vince then said that he's careful to stress that Battlefield 2042 wasn't a quote-unquote failure of a game, which I'll say straight up right now, it was an absolute failure. Sorry, Vince, you're not going to convince me. Literally convince. He then said that the team really spent a lot of time learning how to adapt it and getting things back. He still says that EA doesn't want to repeat the experience it had with 2042, we want it to be good out of the gate. So it's like he kind of contradicted himself a bit. He says it wasn't a failure, but then he's like, hey, by the way, it wasn't good out the gate. So basically confirming that it was a failure. They then talked about the amount of studios that are currently working on the new Battlefield game. It's DICE, it's Motive, it's Ripple Effect, and Criterion. And Ridgeline Games was briefly a part of its development before being shuttered after founder Marcus Leto's departure. They then mentioned EA CEO Andrew Wilson's claim that it's one of the most ambitious projects in EA's history, which I guess we can kind of avoid that entirely. But Vince Zampella remains vague on what it actually entails. He said this, and I quote, "Yeah, it's definitely getting bigger on Battlefield. It's going in and expanding what Battlefield is. We have to have the core. The core Battlefield players know what they want. They've been with us forever. They've been amazing supporters. We need to earn their trust back and get them back on our side." And then it's expanding out and getting more players into the universe and seeing what we can do. So when you want a different experience, you don't have to leave Battlefield. You can experience more things within the Battlefield universe. So expanding on the offering that we're giving. They then talked about Battlefield taking on Call of Duty. They mentioned that briefly, as well as a community program that they're going to be announcing soon. And then they also talked about the Switch 2, to which Vince said, "We don't have anything to announce, but is there a world? Sure, we love them as partners. They've been great to us. I love the Nintendo Switch." Now, we do have some more details to talk about, but really quick, I just have to briefly say it's actually wild how many things Vince Zampella has touched. Like, the dude worked on Call of Duty, arguably making Call of Duty what it is today. He also worked on Titanfall, which again, Titanfall 2 is one of the best single player FPS games ever created. And the multiplayer is just incredible. But he also did Apex, and on top of that, he's working on Battlefield again. Like, it's actually mind-blowing. Do I trust him fully? I somewhat do. I think he's going to make sure that the campaign is going to be good this time around. And he's also probably going to make sure that the Battlefield game is like at least functional. Whether or not it's going to be what everybody's been waiting for, I don't know. Do I trust DICE? Not so much anymore, but I really hope that Vince Zampella can kind of rein everybody in and just work as a cohesive unit to make the best Battlefield experiences possible. But that brings us to our next bit of news. And that is a Battlefield Battle Royale is happening with the new game. And I'm not talking about Firestorm. I'm not talking about Hazard Zone. We're getting a Battle Royale for the new Battlefield. Now, this is according to a report from Insider Gaming, so credit to them. Now, in their report, they first talked about the release date, saying this, and I quote, "Andrew Wilson, the CEO of EA, has also hinted that the next mainline Battlefield game will not be released until 2025. Insider Gaming currently understands that the game has a tentative target release date of October 2025, putting it in line with other Battlefield releases." They then continued on talking about the setting itself, which is going to take place in the modern day, somewhere around the 2025 and 2030s. With a strong story-driven emphasis on modern technology used in war. And that brings us to the Battle Royale news, and that is Ripple Effect, the studio that is working on a new experience for the Battlefield franchise, is indeed working on a new Battle Royale game that is currently aimed to be free-to-play and will follow a similar strategy to the highly successful Call of Duty Warzone. Now, them releasing a Battle Royale mode that's free is actually really smart, honestly. If you guys remember Hazard Zone, which that was also a paid experience, as well as the Battlefield Firestorm, again, also a paid experience. We're kind of dead on arrival due to that. But this time, Battlefield is going to have to deal with another juggernaut coming through, and that is Delta Force. Delta Force is essentially a Battlefield type game that also features a Tarkov mode, and I'm sure they're also going to try to get a Battle Royale mode, as well as the classic Battlefield type modes. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting this year. It's like they got to deal with Call of Duty. They also have to deal with Delta Force, and they have to deal with their internal struggles as well. Will they be able to overcome adversity and actually make a good Battlefield game in the modern era? Will DICE finally launch something that is working at launch? Really, time will tell. I personally am a big fan of Battlefield. I love playing their games. I would love to have a Battlefield game that works, that's actually fun, that's in the modern era. And I am looking forward to it. Like, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm also a bit excited to have a Battlefield game in my life. There's not really a live service game that I'm currently playing. I've been playing a lot of single player games, so I've done my best to just kind of remove myself from all live service games. I'll probably play the new Call of Duty and whatnot, but yeah, it's pretty much single player for me. So if I had another Battlefield game in my life, that would be pretty cool. But who knows? Battlefield 2042 left me down and out. Like, bro, making content on that game every single day or trying to provide content was pretty rough. Like, we went almost 6 months with no like major content update. And sure, Battlefield 2042 is a good game now, but again, it's like Groundhog Day. Like, you know, we wake up, there's a new Battlefield game announced that looks really exciting. The marketing looks good. The game looks like it's going to be the best game ever. It releases and it's just completely awful. It's completely broken out launch. And then we wait for content, wait for updates. The game slowly gets built. And then it gets to a point where they have like that 2.0 launch, or rather 1.0 launch, where it's like a really good game. And then EA just says, nope, you guys are done. Go to the next one, rinse, repeat. So hopefully that doesn't happen with this game. But if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe with your notifications turned on so you're not missing out on any future gaming news from VGL. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.